Hey YouTube, how you guys doing today? Kevin here coming at you with another video. So this is Dave's bike and I just wanted to get this thing started to get it buttoned up and all that. We still have some stuff to do. I brought it out today. I had the carburetor done. We did that already. We cleaned it with the ultrasonic cleaner and well, there's a few problems with the bike. One of the problems was the tail light and the headlight was not working. So I have a theory on that, and I think it has to do with the engine not running on this particular bike, unlike our Kawasaki's. Our Kawasaki, you can turn the key on and the headlight and the brake light will work. But this bike right here, I'll show you. I was looking at the wiring last night when I was in the shed messing around, and this yellow wire right here with the white stripe on it is a headlight wire. But it comes directly off the generator harness. So I'm thinking because the headlight and the tail light works, but the brake part of it doesn't, which is also a higher amperage system because it goes through two switches. Your brake light switch here, and then the one up underneath here. Okay, where's it? Under here someplace. Right up right here. That's your brake light switch. Okay. Share a common problem. So I have the common problem of the headlight not working, the tail light not working, and I was able to get all the other lights working. So now, after we fixed the carburetor, we already got that on there, I threw the tank on. Tank is not bolted down yet. It's just set on there with the fuel line hooked up to it and some fuel to it. So I brought the headlight out, I plugged it in, and now we're going to give this thing its first start and see if this thing will fire up and if the lights will come on. If the lights will fire up and come on, then we can go ahead and button this thing up. The problem with this bike wasn't just electrical, it was also mechanical. So originally this bike right here had a carburetor issue with it, where when you came to a stop, the throttle would go straight up. I mean, this thing would just be screaming. So we don't want that to happen. So in the event that it starts to rev up on its own, we're then going to shut it down. But I don't know I don't know if it was a crank seal. I don't know anything because we weren't able to test that. Now I can't pressure test this engine, and I'll show you guys why. But before I do, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so when I post a video, you guys get it. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys why I couldn't, well, I can, but I'm not going to pressure test it. Because I have to take off this exhaust, and you guys see how rusty the flange is, okay? This engine needs to be ran for a long period of time, and that all needs to be cleaned up. Because I can tell you right now, if you go to take those two bolts off right there, that one right there, and that one right there, this thing is going to just snap, you know? I mean, this, look how rusty it is, you know? So it is a cold start. The engine's cold. Has not been ran. This wire right here, I know you guys have seen this. I twisted that together. That was a broken wire. So I got to fix that connection right there. You can see how it was brown right there. And that wire had overheated and stretched out. Now, when I was messing around in the shed, I noticed that yellow wire right there, and that comes off your magneto harness, which also happens to be the same wire on your headlight, which is telling me, Kevin, 1 + 1 equals, that's right, 3. Okay, so now that we got that all squared away, and my mathematical skills are second to none, we're going to then try to fire this thing up and see if this headlight works. And coincidentally, I'm wondering if the tail light is going to work as... I know the tail light works. I wonder if the brake light's going to work. That's really the key. So I'm going to get you guys in the stand. We're going to get this thing fired up. And once again, if it starts to rev up, I'm just going to kill it, and we're going to figure out what's going on from there, come up with a plan B. But I want to get this thing starting to get it done and get it so it can, he can come pick it up and enjoy it. Let's get you guys in the stand and get crack-a-lacking. All right. On. What do you guys think? We did this on the last one on Mike's machine on his KE100, so we're going to do this again because I liked it. I'm thinking it's going to take 3 kicks. What do you guys think? It's been sitting for a very long time. It had I had to ultrasonic clean the carburetor just like I did Michael's, and I flushed the tank. It's got fresh fuel going down to it. Flush oil's in. It's full in the reservoir. So what do you guys think? 3, 4 kicks. Let's try it out. See what we got. Choke on. I love that style Kickstarter, by the way. Keys on. It's in the run. Whoa! Kick. That's what it took. And look, headlights working. High beam, low beam. I wonder if the brake light's working. Nope, brake light's not working, but that's on. And the headlight works. So we can button up the headlight part, we know the headlight works. Now we gotta figure out what's going on with the brake light. And if that's our problem, hey, I'll take it. This thing's running great. Listen to that thing, huh? She's just purring. Let's see if we get some smoke. There it is. Yep, she started to throttle up on her own. So we got to figure out that's the problem. That's what he was talking about. It throttles up and it stays there. So we got to find out why it's doing that. And I'm wondering if it needs crank seals. Because I didn't get much smoke, but if it was a crank seal, it typically would smoke like a banshee. But yeah, that's the problem right there, guys. I wonder if the throttle is snapping down, if it's closing. Okay, yeah, that even the ignition didn't kill that one. It's got something else going on with this machine. And that, my friends, is what the problem is. Hear how it throttled up? So that's what we're going to have to diagnose. That right there is an air leak at its finest. If you ever have an engine that runs away, okay, now I want to show you what happened. Okay, I shut off the switch up here, the kill switch, and I shut off the key, and this engine still ran. Okay, it throttled up on its own and it still was running with the spark killed. What does that tell you? Let me tell you what that tells you. That tells me that there's an air leak and that there's detonation going on, maybe in the carbon, and an air leak. So what's happening is it's creating two explosions in the cylinder at the same time. One controlled by the spark and the other one's called pre-detonation. This is a sign, if you kept running this like this, you would burn a hole right in the piston. So this is a lean condition, but not caused by the carburetor. this is caused by an air leak, maybe on a crank seal, or maybe on a gasket. So we're going to have to pressure test this engine. We don't really have a choice. So that's where it's going to get really, really technical. So unfortunately, that stinks, because I've been trying to get this thing done. We're going to diagnose the electrical first, and then we're going to do the pressure test and find out what's going on with that. All right. Okay, so the next plan of action for this machine is we're going to yank the carburetor back off, plug the spark plug hole, and then we're going to pull the exhaust off on that manifold, and we're going to have to do that very, very critically. So we're going to clean it up. We're going to use a propane torch, heat up the head of the bolt, let it cool, heat it up, let it cool, heat it up, and let it cool. We're just going to keep going that route with it and see if we can get that out. So we're not doing that today, but over the weekend, probably do that on Sunday. And then we're going to pressure test. And what we're going to be looking for, we're going to have to pull this cover off the side of the engine and the cover off the other side, pull the magneto off, and we're going to be looking with a, we're going to pressure test it, do a vacuum and pressure test. All right. We want to check and see with soapy water if we have bubbles around the base gasket, around the O-rings, not the O-rings, the crank seal on both sides, around the head gasket, and find out where the air leak is. So your only place you're going to get an air leak is you're going to get one at the intake, the exhaust, the base, your two crank seals, your head gasket, and the and where the two halves of the case go together. Those are pretty much your only place where you're going to get a what do you call it there, an air leak. And so we have to find out what it needs before we do it. Me personally, I always replace, if say it was a crank seal, which is a good possibility, especially if it's under the cover, it's not going to be so bad. But if it's under the magneto side, that's the one that causes a thing to rev way up and blow smoke out and just burn up almost instantly. But so that's what we're going to do. We're going to check those. But in my experience, and for what I do, is I always replace crankshaft seals together on both sides. Other than that, the engine sounded really, really good. I just couldn't shut it off. So, what do you call it there? How I did it was I kept snapping the throttle, and until it idled down to the point where, you know, it would kill it. I was basically unfeeding the fire, if you will, and that's pretty much all you can do with them, you know. So looks like that's the angle of the dangle, you know what I mean. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and we have some pretty cool stuff. Let me show you what's next. I've been messing around with this bike right here, and well, it's got a couple of things with it. The headlight bucket was upside down, and how can you tell? There's a little hole right here on the bottom, and that's a drain hole. So you want to make sure those are always facing down. There's actually one on the chrome bezel that goes around it, but I'll get back into that anyway. But you can see all the wiring that's in here, and I'm going to show you guys where they go and how they connect. And this bike right here was hacked, and when I say hacked, I mean it was hacked. They put a brand new taillight assembly on, a brand new old stock. This is actually, the blue wire is actually for your brake light if you had one hooked up, but the wire we're going to be using is the red. And I got the harness. I have a harness for it. This is just a harness I had kicking around for the KV75 MT1s. I had to do one patchwork on it right here, so I used a heat shrink butt connector, which would be fine for the tail light, and it goes up there, and these two go off the magneto, and then these three right here go under the headlight housing, which we'll be wiring in. But I'll show you guys what they hacked. So the wires coming off the magneto, they just hacked them. They just cut them right there. And I cut off the butt connector for this one right here. They had that up to the black wire for the ignition, and then that wire right there was the kill, and it was just ridiculous. So we're going to replace that whole piece. So I have all the proper stuff for this, and then the wiring will be done. So some of these wires right here are not used, like the green wire is not being used, the white with the blue stripe is not being used, and what do you call it there, The black and the yellow are the two that are being used. So the black goes up to the gray, the black goes to the black, and then the rest gets taped off. So, which is fine. I'm alright with that. But we need to get that all in order so we can get the spike proper. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to put the actual ends onto these wires. We're probably just going to trim it back just so it's straight and flat and everything else. Put the proper ends on the two wires that we need, connect them to the wiring harness, and go that route. And that would be perfectly fine. Other than that, the bike is in decent shape. We're going to replace the shocks and put the washers, missing some inboard washers, on the tank. And other than that, it's all complete. So it runs good, drives nice. I'm pretty happy with it. And then this way he'll go out back to the collection with the rest of his family. So anyway, guys, once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will be chit-chatting with you guys later. Thank you, and I am